Hi folks, Tony Knight, dog listener here, and this particular film I'm doing after being in Melbourne yesterday. Very exciting, met a publicist because things are going quite well here for TV, etc. And then I met a friend for lunch, and while we were out there, it was a really humid day, really hot and humid, and Melbourne, you know, is not the most humid place in Australia. There are plenty of other places as you go up east which are worse for humidity, but on such a humid day, there were still people out there walking their dogs. And you could see that the dogs were struggling in the heat. Now, I put this comment on my Twitter page and on my Facebook page, both Tony Dogs with a Z Knight. And I got an interesting response back from a guy who I met a couple of weeks ago, a really great guy called Steve who works on a show called Hound TV. You can look that up on the web because they do podcasts and they do public access television in Australia. And he put the comment that, you know, it's fine. It's better for dogs to be outside enjoying, you know, being out in, you know, with water and being able to enjoy the sunshine, so to speak, rather than being cooped up indoors. And I completely agree with that. But it got me to thinking that maybe there was a misunderstanding. So to set the record straight, you know, my issue is that people have this idea that you have to walk your dog every day, which comes from basically no evidence that it actually helps. You know, something that we created, you know, 70 years ago for the masses, maybe 100 years ago for Victorian Britons when they were promenading. But we've had dogs for thousands and thousands of years. Never thought about walking the dogs, it was never a problem. But because of our society changing so that we put these stresses on ourselves about food and exercise, we've put it on the dogs. Not cats, not budgies, not rabbits, not goldfish, but dogs. And as a result, people are going out there feeling guilty because they haven't walked their dog. And you're inadvertently putting the dogs through more stress. Now what I'm saying is, if it's a really hot and humid day, which is what I do with my dogs, I mean I live in the south of France and we get quite a lot of good weather. If it's too hot, I just let my dogs lounge around, either indoors or outdoors. I leave the front door open so they can come and go as they please. I mean, I've got it fenced off, obviously, but they can come in and go out. Prue likes the sun, but they'll get to a point where it's too hot and she'll just simply take herself inside into the cool and shade of the house. Now that's fine if the dogs have got a choice. If they've got a choice that there's shade and a choice that there's water, which is what Steve was alluding to. However, some people through guilt are getting their dogs out there, and not just when it's really too hot for the dogs. And you know, my point is, if the floor is too hot, if the concrete's too hot for you to walk on in bare feet, think about your dogs maybe. You know, and if you can't walk around comfortably in a sweater, think about your dogs maybe. But also, I've seen dogs being, you know, taken for a walk by their owners in thunderstorms, in hailstorms, and in snow, when it's, you know, bitterly cold, because people feel this guilt that you have to walk your dog. Now, there's nothing wrong with walking your dog, but you know what? It should be a pleasure, not a chore. And for anybody out there who's watching it thinking, at the moment, walking the dog is a chore, I just ask you to think about this. Is it really necessary? Now, that can stir up a whole can of worms, I know, because people are told, you are told by people on the TV or so-called experts, you must walk your dog every day, so if not, you're a terrible, terrible person. Dogs for the disabled. Okay, what are they going to do? You know, these are dogs that are designed, you know, that they are trained to look after seriously disabled people who cannot take them for a walk. Does that mean they're bad owners? Doesn't make sense. So, rather than feeling guilty and going, I've got to take the dog for a walk, think about guilt itself as something that, you know, it's your enemy, really. Guilt is our enemy. No other creature on the planet, apart from man, suffers from guilt. Right? No wolf pack has ever killed an elk and gone, right, oh my God, what have we done? The family's there. What about the police? Doesn't exist. But we've put guilt on dogs. We need to walk the dog. All I'm going to ask you to do is think about what is the evidence that we have to walk dogs. And if you want evidence from their natural cousins, look and see what they do. In fact, you know, if you go on to a zoo or go on safari, you'll see animals basically doing nothing, especially when it's too hot or if, you know, the weather's too bad. Look, you know, because they're not going to waste their energy. Just think about it. Just think about that idea that you don't have to walk your dog. Now, by all means do, but make sure you're happy and in control. How you can get happy and in control? Well, that's where dog listener training comes on. You know, so go onto my website, tony-knight.co.uk, and you can sign up for my blog and all sorts of other ideas and ways where you can get happy and in control with your dogs. But even if you don't decide to do that, just the next time it's chucking it down with rain, or it's so hot that the concrete, you know, the slabs are cracking, think, I might wait till it's stopped raining or it's cooled down a bit. And you and your dog might be happy for that. That's all from me for the moment. Thanks for listening.